Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Microtosh 64-bit here again, and this is chapter 2 of virtualization. In the last chapter, we dealt with understanding virtualization and the various virtualization programs. We wrapped things up by looking at the burning of ISO files, particularly Linux operating systems, which are archived in ISO files. And we learned how to burn on Windows and on Mac and tested the disks in the ISO files that we used in the virtual machines. Today, we're going to be looking at Virtualbox. Now, we talked about Virtualbox in the last chapter, but this time we want to actually play around with it and use some of its features and get to know it. So that's what we're going to do today. First thing we need to do is open it up, and if we have any virtual machines, we're going to delete them. Okay, we don't have any. Good. What we're going to do is we're going to create a virtual machine right off the bat. The first thing I'm going to do here is insert one of my hard disks. I have a 1 terabyte hard disk that I partitioned into 3 parts. One partition for my Mac virtual machines, one for Windows, and another one just for ISO files. So if I can find some way to connect this in, we're gonna get this loaded up here. And I recommend, because I'm very limited on space on my computer, so if you don't have much space, what you could do is you can go out and get you a separate hard disk. And if it's just going to be for Windows, just leave it at NTFS file system, and HFS for Mac. And or if you're using both, like I am, you can partition your disk into 3 parts. And we'll talk about partitioning in the extended service pack. But if you know how, you can go ahead and do that and make 2 separate volumes. So let's go ahead and make sure that that's in there. Yes, you see how I have a nice disk formatted in here. So, actually that's the wrong disk. Let's take that out. Now this is the disk we want. So let's fiddle around here and plug it in. Find a USB port. There we go. Turn it on. That was my backup disk that I put in. So we're going to take a more detailed look at creating a virtual machine, and we're going to talk about every single thing that you're going to need to know in a more detailed format. So let's hopefully see. There we go. So here's my partition Windows VMs that I've named it. We have here 153 gigabytes. Here's a disk titled ISO files, and I have all the ISO files that I need. I also have a VM account, which comprises of all my passwords, root passwords, and so forth for my operating systems, so that I don't get them confused and lost. So we're going to create a new VM, and find out. I don't have your specifics. It's okay. We're going to go ahead and we're going to install a Linux operating system, and most likely we're going to install Ubuntu. This isn't going to be the first time we do this with the Ubuntu. Now let's talk about this. This is the memory. In order for you to have a stable system, your computer, the disk has to have, your virtual machine has to have the right amount of memory. The memory is what your programs, your operating systems will use to process things, such as when you're doing stuff like opening a word processor or watching video or doing that type of stuff. The virtual machine has to process all of this. So in order to do this, you're going to have to give it the right amount of memory. By default, Virtualbox will give you the default amount of memory, For Linux systems, I usually just give it 500 megabytes because Linux systems go quite well with a low amount of memory, depending on how much you want to do. But most computers, probably like the one you're using, has 2 gigs of memory, so make sure that you don't give it your virtual machine too much, because then you might your actual system might not have enough resources for you to use your virtual machine and do other things on your actual computer. Here's the hard disk. This hard disk is the same thing as this Windows Vista disk. This is the hard disk on your system. This file contains everything on your operating system. That's the same thing we're going to do. We're going to create a hard disk for the operating system that we're going to install. This will comprise of the operating system, the files, everything that you install on your virtual machine's operating system. It will be on this hard disk. And we're going to create a new one. And here's an option. You have 2 options in which your disks can be made. You have a dynamically expanding storage disk. This means that, say you create a hard disk that has 8 gigs of storage. The operating system will gradually grow. Even if you put more content past 8 gigs, the hard disk will continue to grow even if you bypass 8 gigs. A fixed data storage is this. If you give your operating system 8 gigs, then the fixed storage is automatically going to affix your hard disk and take away 8 gigs from your actual computer that you're using, and will take off 8 gigs and put it exclusively for your virtual machine. It's just best to go with the dynamically expanding one, so that in case you put more content on your operating system, your virtual machine, that you can go ahead and continue to use it. And I named it Ubuntu 9. And I'm going to save the disk that we create. I'm going to save it to the hard disk that I inserted. So I'm going to find the disk. I'm going to save the hard disk for the Ubuntu 9 operating system onto my external hard disk. This way I'm not taking any space on my actual system. And I'm gonna title it Ubuntu 9. And this is where the hard disk is saved. This also means that whenever I want to use this Ubuntu 9, I have to have my external hard drive connected. And so that's the basic setup of creating a virtual machine in Virtualbox. Basically, actually no, we want to stop this. Let's go ahead and kill this right quick. Basically, when you create a new virtual machine, go to new and go to next. Basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna name the operating system, choose the operating system you're going to install. Like we choose Ubuntu. And then you give it the amount of memory you want. You can also change these settings once the virtual machine has been created. Create the hard disk. And you know, it's really straightforward. If you know how to if you know the basics of memory and storage, this is a very easy setup. And in the next episode, we'll be looking more into Virtualbox. See here, we'll be customizing the virtual machine. So say if we didn't want what we have here, we're gonna go through the basics of how to customize your virtual machine. That's it for this video.